This is going to be very tough for me because I'm half Italian, so I need both my hands to speak. So I'm going to do my best. I might drop the microphone a couple times, though.
You're only half Italian.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's true, half, okay. But it's the right half. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is my individual quest in integrating the TOC thinking process into the Six Sigma curriculum at Seagate. I've been there now for about 3.5 years, and I got very interested in Six Sigma because I knew it was process improvement. Now, I have a background as a Jonah, and I've been practicing TOC, specifically the thinking process, for about 11 years now. So I was really excited when I went into the program because I thought I would see a lot of sort of TOC stuff integrated, and I was disappointed actually to see that there was none. So I started this process. So here's my agenda, and I will get going. Okay, so I'm gonna admit right now, considering it's 45 minutes, and I should probably take off my watch here so I can see it, that I'm gonna fly through some of these slides. And you have the slides, so you can check them out later. And also, if you give me your email address or card, I'm happy to send you some of the training material that I use. I'm happy to share it with you. Actually, I've been talking to Dr. Holt, and I'm gonna join his group and put a lot of this material on his website as well. So in case you don't know who Seagate is, we're one of the largest manufacturers of hard disk drives. About 79 million drives shipped last year. $6.2 billion in revenue, about 42,000 employees, and we're in 15 major companies. We have markets in desktop, mobile, enterprise, and now the 1-inch drives, which is going to be a wonderful marketplace, I think. I'm really excited about the TiVo units because I'm hoping to get a discount on those drives when they go. I just got my HD one, so the technology's there. Here is a picture of our global presence so you can get an idea where we are. Most of our manufacturing is in Thailand, China, and we do a lot in Ireland too. Here are some of our key customers. You probably know a lot of them: Dell, HP, Compaq. It's very high probability that you have a Seagate drive on at least your desktop computer, and moving more so now towards the mobile. Okay, so here comes the fun part. First of all, I just want to get an idea how many people are familiar with Six Sigma, specifically like the DMAIC, the steps for DMAIC and IDOV. Okay, you can be honest, I won't tell. Okay, this is good because I want to show you some of the steps if you're not familiar with it so you get some additional information as well. Does everybody know who General Thomas Stafford is? He's like the first guy on the moon, and he introduced Six Sigma to Seagate. He's on our board of directors, and we benchmarked General Electric and launched in 1998 doing the DMAIC process improvement step for Six Sigma first, and then we moved into the design for Six Sigma, which is what DFSS stands for. And we had help from the Six Sigma Academy. Ironically enough, paid them $6 million for the slides. So they keep 6, okay. Anyway, we should probably charge them. We've done a lot of upgrades to them. But if you're not familiar with the methodologies of Six Sigma, the primary one is DMAIC, which they call define, where you define your project, specifically your problem statement, objective, and your success measurement. And then your measure stage, which is you measure the magnitude of your problem and establish a baseline. And then you analyze it, and this is where the TOC tools really came to light. Analyze your tools to really understand the root cause of the problem, and then do an improvement path for that problem and put a control plan or go through the control stage to ensure that you as a belt can walk away and then the process will continue to be improved. And DFSS is designed for Six Sigma. You might have heard it as IDOV. You go through the same define, measure phase, and then identify, design, optimize, and validate, specifically geared towards designing our drives. So I'm going to fly through this one, but you can look at it later. This is actually a really nice template I like that sort of defines the goals and stages of the DMAIC phase. And here's one for IDOV. So you can look at these later, and I can provide you with more details on some of these underlying things if you'd like later. What I'd like to show you too now is the belt levels. You know, there's really not a lot of, like a green belt at some companies is equivalent to a brown belt at other companies, so I was just going to explain really what we define as our belt levels. I'm actually a senior master black belt, but they have master black belts as well who mentor other brown belts and black belts. And a black belt, it's a full-time job for them to do projects. That's really our big distinguish for brown and black. The brown belt has their own job still, but they do Six Sigma projects following the Six Sigma methodologies. And green belts are in their full-time job, but they typically are team members. And orange belts are participants as well, but believe it or not, it's actually lower level, usually at the admin level, although I've seen some orange belt projects that have just had tremendous improvements. And also, feel free at any time if you want to ask a question. You don't have to wait till the end. Okay, so some Six Sigma measured accomplishments that Seagate's quite proud of. One completed over 4,700 Six Sigma projects. $1.2 billion in savings. I put this in red because I'm not very impressed with that number. I think it's the wrong measure. One of the things that I found about Six Sigma, and I'm fighting this battle right now, and actually I'm getting a lot of response. About a year and a half ago, I went to a seminar and I talked to Dr. Goldratt, and he said, you know, I like the tools of Six Sigma. I like the tools of Lean. I hate how they're measured. And like he typically does, he walks away. And then you've got to think about it for a year and understand what he's talking about. And I got it, you know, shorter than a year, but if the primary measure is cost reduction, you will get local optimization all over the place. Everything is reduced cycle time, cut costs. There's really no focus on a constrained area. It's so random. So I put that in red because I encourage you, don't make the same mistake that we did. Have your primary measure be throughput, new money into the system. Think about how fundamentally more creative your projects will be if that is the primary measure. So I would discourage you from having costs be a primary measure. But we've trained over 8,000 employees, and you saw the map of how big we are, so that's pretty impressive, and incorporated both the transactional and operational waves for defined for Six Sigma and DMAIC. So when I went through as a new black belt trainee and came out of the program, I noticed a few undesirable effects, although these aren't stated exactly as UDs, so we'll go ahead and call them weaknesses in the training. And this is not just for Seagate. I've seen training material for at least 75 companies that do Six Sigma, and they all have the same issues. Specifically, there's too much statistical analysis in the DMAIC transactional waves. So transactional is more business process improvement. Operations would be on the factory floor. But the distinctions, it's so marginal. You wonder why they're not just teaching the same thing. They have to separate it more. So there was just too much statistical analysis. I'm sure most of you all are in business, not operations, or well, how about for the people who are in business process rather than operations, when was the last time you did complex regression analysis in your, improving your business process? Probably not too practical for you, but it's a full day in the training. The analyze stage lacked a strong cause and effect tool. There was a big distinction between what a CRT is and what a fishbone diagram does. So there wasn't a really good cause-effect tool. The improved stage, simply you did all this wonderful analysis, yet there really was no tool to direct you towards a solution once you identified your root causes. The DFSS method for testing solutions was way too complex, and frankly, projects took 6 months to a year was an accepted norm. And it's just in our industry that's just much, much too long. And then belts didn't really have a way to prioritize and mine projects, which is really important in a big company like ours. So what project should I do? I'm a belt and I'm looking for a project to do. It was, go ask your boss and he'll tell you. And it was random. Again, a lot of it was based on cost savings. So we didn't really have a tool to say, what are the key undesirable effects that you're dealing with as a company, and what are the root causes of those? Those should be the basis from a high level of the projects you should be working on. At least I feel that way. Although, we use the current reality tree to do this, but I'm finding that the prerequisite tree is better suited for it. So the desired effects that I was hoping to achieve was that belts have practical effect-cause-effect tools. We have a great root cause tree in effect. Tools to resolve conflict, because in a company my size and international, there's lots of very old practices that are perceived as, this is just the way it is. We don't change that. But now with the conflict resolution diagram, we can break those barriers. And I wanted something to easily take solutions to action plans and make it so that projects can be completed within 3 months, and that the belts had a way to prioritize their projects towards the goal of making more money. Okay, so the injection for improvement. Now, I know you're going to say, I don't see the prerequisite tree and the transition tree. In a company of my size and of the types of layers, you actually go for the best bang for the buck that you can get now and then move the others in. Since this presentation was developed, we have brought in the prerequisite and the transition tree. But for now, what I wanted to start with, I thought I'd get the biggest bang for the buck in terms of addressing the biggest gaps by looking at the CRT, FRT, and the evaporating cloud. So that's what I introduced. So how was I going to do it? I mean, frankly, I was a peon in a really big pool. So in order to get their attention, I took it upon myself to do a Six Sigma project and use the tools and then show the results. So that's what I did. I wanted to find a project to do that, and we have a tool called the collaboration platform, and it allows you to converse with documents and do document management and send updates. It's a really good project management tool, but the performance was just dismal. So the problem statement that I wrote at the time was that the response time associated with the use of the tool was below best-in-class performance. And in Asia to Scotts Valley, which is basically from Singapore to California, it's taking about 2 minutes and 54 seconds to download a 2 meg file and log on to onto the platform. So you can imagine the use was pretty poor because the performance was so bad. So I figured this would be a good place for me to apply the CRT to get to the root cause of why the performance was so awful. So this is just a snapshot. I can send you my CRT, but basically what we found out, one of the undesirable effects here you can see is that downloads and uploads take too long. And one of the reasons was because the software engine, which was its vault structure, its core structure, was run off a system that couldn't support distributed file structure, so it couldn't be replicated. It's pretty funny, when I took this project, everybody just said, I don't know why you're wasting your time with this. All we have to do is buy more servers and put them in more locations. It's a common complaint, solution that you get. The problem in this case is, had we have done that, they would have found out that you couldn't replicate the servers. So hence, there was only one location for this platform because of the vault structure that was underneath it. And at the time, people didn't really know that. And we didn't have proper peering agreements, and you can see some of the other root causes that I put. So went ahead with a future reality tree, and we identified unnamed software company to be the vault structure, which supported distributed file structure. And through this and establishing service level agreements and negotiating peering agreements with our customers, we were able to dramatically increase the response time of the system. So here's some results. Launching the platform went from 2 minutes and 54 seconds from Scotts Valley, so California, to Singapore to 9 seconds. Downloading a 2 meg file went from 1 minute and 48 seconds to 7 seconds as measured by a fantastic tool called Topaz. And I completed the project in 2 months, which was a record for a transactional project. And the results, obviously, they clearly demonstrated the power of the thinking process tools, at least the primary tools that I used in this example. So the curriculum committee was clamoring for them. So I had them. So I was able to then say, okay, here's what I use and here's how I did it. And then I showed them and they said, look, you got to develop training sites for this stuff. We have to show this to our belts. So the question was, where do you put the tools? So I went ahead and showed where we did. For the DMAIC approach, the CRT is perfect for analyze. Once you establish that you have a problem, you can use the CRT to analyze the process, or in this case, the system that we were trying to resolve latency on, and really get down to the core problem. So it's perfect for the analyze phase. The FRT and the conflict resolution diagram, or evaporating cloud, perfect for improve. You've got all your root causes. Now I have a focused effort on what to improve, whereas before you did all this analysis and it was sort of random where you came up with your solution. And then when you're putting together the future reality tree and coming up with the injections, inevitably you're going to run into conflict. So the evaporating cloud technique is just wonderful for that. And for IDOV, I showed where I put it's perfect for design and for to put the FRT in the evaporating cloud for IDOV and development. Okay, so then the next question you're going to have to deal with is which method of the tools do you want to use? For us, it was imperative that the method for developing these tools was really simple, and it had to be globally understood. Every one of these teams are global, and primarily everything that you're going to do has to be done on WebEx or NetMeeting. We just didn't have the luxury of teaching a system where you have everybody in a room and you do Post-it notes. And it needs to be easily understood. And I know this is a terrible thing to say, but when you design slides for a big global company or even your own company, you really have to keep it at a low level so it's real clear. And so pretend like you're writing it for 6th graders, and then you'll achieve your goal in terms of developing curriculums. And we needed to minimize the number of meetings required to develop the tools because people's time is just so valued. So the methods that I was aware of and I thought I'd look at was looking at the evaporating cloud to the CRT method. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Looking at the UDs directly to CRT, or a method that Bill Detmer put in Breaking the Constraints to World-Class Performance, which was to build a cause-negative Y table. And frankly, I found that that was the one that we got the best response from the classes. It was the most effective to build that table. And it limits a lot of the meeting times that you have to do. Is everybody familiar with this method? It's actually pretty slick. You start with the negatives and ask the question, what are the visible indicators that tell me that the processor system is not performing up to expectation? So I put a little example here with the collaboration platform. Clearly, downloads and uploads took too long. That would be your first one. And you put about 5 to 10 of these and move on to your Y column, which is Y is the negative, bad, towards achieving your goal, which you state in the second part of building the CRT table. And then the causes. What are the causes for the negatives? The beauty of this is that if you turn it on its side, counterclockwise, 90 degrees, the logic for the current reality tree is there, the if-then logic. For example, if there's only one location for the E2Open server, then downloads and uploads take too long. Now, granted, there's some cost efficiency that you have to fill in. That's my other warning to you, too. Make sure you go over very clearly with students the categories of legitimate reservation, or they will be incredibly violated. And then if downloads and uploads take too long, then users become frustrated and say stop using the tool. So this was a good way for a belt to get this table together in 1 or 2 hour meetings and then put the tree together, go back, meet with their team, show them their results, fill in the gaps, if you will, and drill down to root cause. So we found this to be very easy. It could be done globally, and it can be done over WebEx, and it limits the time. Okay, speaking of time, I'm doing okay. What time do we end? 4:15? Okay, I'm okay. This is just a sample of some of the slides from the training. So anytime you see when you look at the slides, Brown Belt Training Slide, Six Sigma, these are just for example purposes to give you a sort of a flavor of some of the actual class slides. So I'm going to fly through these with your permission. Okay, implementing the injections. Which method should, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, Larry.
So could you stick with Detmer's core problem approach, license approach?
Primarily, we just moved to the table approach. So we didn't start with a core conflict. It just, you know, logic is sort of hard for people. You know, everybody in this venue, you know, believe me, what Ellie said was right. You guys are outliers. And that's no insult to my employees at all. You know, please don't take it the wrong way. But you have to go for the easiest thing for people to comprehend. And we found through trial and error that this was it. I hope I answered your question. So for the future reality tree, there really wasn't a big decision here. These are actually steps. Undesirable effects to desirable effects, diametric opposite. Root causes, so look at your root causes and develop injections, and then build those injections up to the desired effects. That's the method we use for future reality tree. And here, again, are some slides from the actual training material. So I'm going to jump ahead. But please go ahead and look at it, and if you'd like more details on it, I'd be happy to provide you with them. Okay, the next thing is bringing in the evaporating cloud. We did use a method where you start with the prerequisites, in other words, identifying the conflict and moving on to what is that prerequisite trying to satisfy, that's your requirement, and the common objective. So we use that approach to building the conflict resolution diagram. And believe me, when you get to the core problem and you start developing injections in these teams, because of the rooted policies and procedures and practices that have been in place for so long, conflict will inevitably come up. So this is why we introduced the evaporating cloud. And here, again, are some of the slides that we use from the training. There are a lot more than this. I just wanted to give you a little sample. So implementing the injection, what was required? Wish it was as easy as this one slide in terms of time. It took a while to do because you got to show everybody from all different countries and get buy-in, but we did it. So you start with the training. You got to develop your slides, obviously. We had to retrain have a course, almost like a train the trainer, like a Jonah's Jonah type of class, so that I'm not the only one providing the training, because it would have been a full-time job. And then we trained the global master black belts, provided refresher courses for existing belts, and then took feedback that we got, frankly, and we added a case study, and in class where they actually read a case study and build a CRT, build a table, put it together. Updated the current class examples that we use, because some of them, you know, I was just too US focused and didn't realize that some things in the US have different definitions in Asia. So try to get more generic examples. I mean, you really live and learn when you're putting stuff together like this. And this is actually, I'm really proud of this little slick thing. It's a pocket card on how to develop the tools so that people can carry them around in case they go out to dinner and, you know, want to build a cloud. All right, so results. I think Dr. Goldrat will love these. So the results. Project quality increased dramatically as measured by a survey of global Six Sigma directors, and some of the things that I pulled out of it, you know, projects are more focused now, problems are much less ambiguous, the solution paths much more clearly defined, have much less resistance to buy-in. You know, and this is another thing that I love about the thinking process, and in my experience, it builds the change management for you. You have a group of people that identify a problem together. They understand the root causes together. They build the solutions together and the implementation plan together. The buy-in's there. So it's a wonderful change management tool set as well. And I'm sure for all of you who use them, you know, you can relate to that benefit. Project completion rate increased by 80%. The number of projects completed within 3 months went up 70%. And graduating transactional belts, overwhelmingly since we introduced these in a year and a half ago, have rated it the #1 transactional tools, hands down, of all of the Six Sigma tools. And then the CRT became the primary tool used for project mining. Although, frankly, again, through experience, I'm finding that the prerequisite tree might do a better job at that. Because you state your objective and your obstacles and your intermediate objectives, and from a high level, you sort of get a sketch of what you need to do.
How long would it take you to teach?
So the CRT class, I think, is done in 2 hours. I know it's not, it's probably, Dr. Holt's like, what? 2 hours? But, you know, it's a compressed class anyway. So we do about, I think it's between 2 and 3 hours for the CRT, the same for the FRT, and about 1.5 to 2 hours for the conflict clouds. Yeah. But it's in different waves. So the waves are 1 week we do the improve phase, or excuse me, the define phase and measure phase, and then you get a month off to go and do your homework and stuff, and then you do the next phase, and then there's a month, so it's not all impacted at once. So CRT and FRT were used to facilitate our concept of the super projects, which is basically an umbrella of major desirable effects and the projects that need to be done to achieve them. So for example, this desirable effect, we want to achieve end-to-end supply chain synchronization. How can we do that? We have to have bill of material integrity. We have to have inventory data consistency. We have to have demand consolidation. And from this high-level approach, I can sketch out the projects that need to be done to ultimately reach this desired effect. That's what I mean by project mining. So the next steps for us, and believe it or not, these have already happened within the 3 weeks between submitting this and today. We put the prerequisite tree and the transition tree into the improve phase, and which is perfect because another issue that I have with Six Sigma, which is now being resolved, is the fact that for a long time the Six Sigma community sort of rejected the concept that belts have to have project management skills. I mean, what are you doing as a belt? You are implementing these tool sets in a sequential order, if you will, and without project management skills, it's a disaster. And the prerequisite tree and transition tree are wonderful for that task and to improve project management skills. And we have an intention to bring critical chain project management into Seagate more than just in engineering and design, which is where it is now. So the PRT we also put in, just one more sec, for IDOV, and the transition tree moved into validate for IDOV. That is my next quest in life. So I'll get to it. Yeah, so next steps for us is change the primary metrics of Six Sigma from cost savings to increasing throughput. If you look at number 4, this is my other heavy passion, is to get our executives to understand the value of throughput measures, move towards constraint accounting / throughput accounting, and stop relying on cost metrics to drive decisions. And my partner and I, Zach, who you might have seen here with me, over the past 3 months, we've been working through the layers of Seagate and have actually got buy-in from the chief operating officer and the corporate controller. And when we get back, we're going to introduce it to the CFO with a number of Seagate examples on throughput per hour on our constraint. And hopefully next year I can come back and tell you that we were successful. I think we would probably be one of the biggest companies that be driven by throughput accounting, constraint accounting, if we can get it happening. Oh, absolutely agree, yeah. Okay, the other thing that we want to do is use the thinking process to identify and drive projects that move us more towards throughput. And one of the other things that we need to do, but a lot of this, you know, if you look at the reason why it's happening, it's because of those cost accounting measures, is to move from build to stock to build to demand using drum buffer rope, and hopefully leveraging my lean group to do that effort. Wow, I made it? Anybody, what questions do you have? Thanks.